Guys, this is strategy I'm talking about. Go straight to the point. I don't want to waste your time. I know we all have a lot of things to do. So the strategy is simple. Find an area where the market reversed. But before you find the area where the market reversed, you need to make sure there is a trend that is happening. From here to right now, you see some uptrend. At this point, market reversed massively. So what this means is that buyers were in control over here, over this zone. There were a lot of buyers here. But when they get to this zone, they couldn't push above this zone. What happened? Sellers came in massively and sold off. So what this tells you is that there's always uh, selling momentum in this zone. That the big banks are in this zone. You see, I say there must be a momentum. There must be a trend. There must be a strong trend. You don't just trade this with a little bit of pullback. I'm not talking about little spring like this. I'm talking about a massive movement, then a correction happen, a big correction happen. You understand what I'm saying? Buyers came in, bought all the way to this zone. They couldn't push above this zone. It means that there are many others around this zone, selling other around this zone. Sellers came into the market, push it all the way to this zone. They couldn't go above this zone too. Okay, let me make it a little bit bigger. So what I'm doing will be clear. Okay. Where were we? Let's go to 4 hours. Okay, it's more clean here. Buyers, sellers. What's happening in this chart is buyers and sellers, they are continuously fighting who will dominate. You understand what I'm saying? Here, sellers dominated the buyers. It sold off massively. Here, buyers came in and sellers tried to push down. It didn't happen. It bought massively. You hear the what I'm saying? Massively. So when I say this massively, look at this. Look at this clearly. It sold all the way for 1,500 pips. At this point, he bought all the way for what? From this point, he bought all the way for 1,300 pips. That's a massive movement. So, first of all, you have already indicated that there is sellers here. You indicated there is a buyer here. It's clear enough. I think it's simple. I'm making it very simple. The same thing happened at this zone. Buyers came all the way to this zone. They couldn't push the market above. It sold massively. It sold massively back down to this zone. Simple. The same thing is happening right now and again, and it's repeating itself again and again. Sellers couldn't push below this zone, buyers step in. So you ask me what's the strategy behind this? The strategy behind this is that with this thing, you already know where the sellers are. With these things, you already know where the buyers are. So what happens is when the market comes back to the area where the sellers are, you look for a sell. When market comes back to area where the buyers are, you look for a buy. It's simple, but it's not that simple. You need to pay attention to the next step. The next step is how do you indicate when the market comes to this zone? How do you know that it will sell? But before then, I will tell you something. What do you notice around this zone? What you notice around this zone is that your point of interest around this zone is the last candle that closes, the last green candle that closes before the sellers came in is a point of interest. So let's indicate it. This is the last green candle that closed before the sellers came in. This is the last green candle that closed before the sellers came in. So here is a point of interest. For buying, this is the last candle. This is the last red candle that closed. This is the last red candle that closed before the buyers came in, if I'm correct. Same thing happened over here again. This is the last green candle that closed. Remember, you are trying to sell, so you're looking for the last green candle, the last bullish candle that closed before the sellers came in. Same thing happened over here again. For the last part, this is the last red candle that closed before the buyers came in. So, first thing, you have discovered the momentum of the market. The market was buying. You saw an area where you sold off. Second thing you're looking for is which candle, what is the last green candle that closed before the sellers came in, or the last red candle that closed before the buyers came in. This is the second step. So why this candle that I'm talking about is very important is because that is the area you will look for a sell or for a buy. If the market eventually comes back to that zone, you don't just take buy or selling anywhere else. Anywhere. You take buying or selling at that point where the last green candle list or the last red candle closes. You understand what I'm saying? So let's clean the chart up a little bit. Let's give you a tutorial. Let's say that this is a resistance and this is a support. And for my newbies, they already know the trending market is a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and higher high with a higher low. It comes all the way to the resistance and it starts selling. Start making lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and so on. Comes back all the way to the support. First thing you already discovered, this market was trending market, was a buying market. It bought, you know the direction. It came to this support or whatever you call it. You might call it support, but it's a supply and demand. It came to this zone. Sellers took control. It starts selling. So you ask yourself, what you have to ask yourself is, what is the last? Because this is a buying. This it was buying from here. You ask yourself, okay, what was the last bullish candle that formed before the sellers came in? You look over here and you saw your last bullish candle that formed. You say, okay, fine. You push all the way down here. You push all the way down here. You say, what's the last red candle that formed before these buyers came in? Before buyers came in, you discover your last red candle. Okay, the market now start trending above, start pushing up again, pushing up again, pushing up again. At this zone, you already know that there are sellers at this zone. It's simple. You know that there are sellers at this zone. And this is the point where you will like to take a trade from. And you say, and market has eventually come back to that zone. You understand what I'm saying? So when you get back to this zone and you say, okay, this is the last green candle that closed. This is the last green candle that closed before the selling out happened. Okay, let me wait for the candle for the market to come back to that zone. This is where you take a trade from, but you don't just take a trade. This leads us to the third step. The third step is for you to take a trade here. You need to look for a confirmation. That confirmation is what we call a change in structure, a change in market structure, or a break of structure, or whatever you want to call it. So since you notice that this market is already making higher high and higher low, so what you have to look for right now is a change. When you get to this zone, this is your point of interest. What you have to look for right now is for it to start making a lower high and lower low. It's simple, a change in direction. So this market got to this zone, it broke instead of it to push above this candle, like from here, it made a lower candle. So this tell you that the market is about to change. The movement of the market is about to change. So what do you do right here? What you do right here is you sell. This is where you sell. You put your you enter here and put your stop loss just above this last string high. You understand what I'm saying? Just above this last string high. Then it targets all the way down, 1 to 5. It's clean, it's simple, it's easy. But the thing is that you have to train yourself to see it over and over and over again. You have to train your eyes to see it over and over and over again. Okay, let's take for instance, let's go to the chart. Let me show you an example in the chart. So it will not be like I'm just talking, I'm not showing an example. Let's use here for an example. Market came all the way to this zone. Sellers couldn't come in. Sellers came in. Buyers couldn't push it above this zone. What happened? Sellers buyers couldn't push it above this zone. What happened? It starts selling. It gets to this zone before reversing. So when you get to this zone and start reversing, so what you have to look for right now is what was the last red candle that formed before this reversing happened. The last red candle that formed before this reversing happened is this one. So as market eventually pushed back to that level, what happened? It came back to this level. What happened? It bought. It's simple. You have to train your eyes to see it again and again and again. It bought. Simple. Okay, let's use this as an example. Another example. This is example number one. I just showed you right now. The example number two is market bought all the way from here into this zone. You identify a trend, high, low. Market was trending. It came to this zone. It couldn't sell again. It couldn't buy again. It sold off. It sold off massively. This was the last green candle that formed before it sold off massively. So this is your point of interest. What happened? What happened? As market eventually get back to that zone, what happened at this zone? It sold off massively. This is not magic. It's not luck. It's something that I've tested and is working. It sold off massively. Let me show you an example in Euro USD. Then we can call this a day. Euro USD. Euro USD. Forex.com. Market sold off massively. I'm sorry. I was in Euro USD that. So I saw there was it Euro USD? It should be Euro USD. What is this? There was an example I wanted to show, but I don't think it's oh, okay. Okay. Here it is. Here it is. Markets bought, Markets sold all the way to the zone, and started buying. And started buying. Right? There's a massive swing low, right? This was the last red candle that formed. This last red candle formed. And once market returned back to this zone, what happened? It bought massively. I'm making it look very simple, but listen, let me say something. This takes time. I've been in the game since 2019. This is not something that I just look. I know it's confusing. You understand what I'm saying? I know it's confusing. I know it's difficult. I know how it feels to be a beginner and watching this too much information coming to you at once. I know how it feels. But if you keep processing, if you keep learning, if you keep coming back to it, if you keep looking at the chart every single day, you begin to notice this pattern. With that being said, the strategy is more than this that I just shared right now. The strategy is bigger than this. It's not something that I can just put in one video. You understand what I'm saying? I will make more videos and go deeper into the strategy. How to get a perfect entry, more perfect entry. You understand what I'm saying? So this should be the end of the video. I hope you like my video and come back for more. All right, man. Bye.